So, welcome to our first BTUG of the year, and here in Bellingham. And I'm covering for Gina, who's about to have a baby in 2 weeks, and Steph, who's getting a kidney transplant. So I'm holding down the fort. Just introduce David, and I'll introduce Lifted Viz. We're a consulting and upskilling data viz and analytics company in Bellingham, Washington. And one of the main things we do is bring on interns and get them up to speed. And this year we're doing quarterly internships. And so tonight we have a chance for some of our interns to present live and also by recording about their latest projects, which was to try to leverage Tableau Public to jumpstart their data visualization in a particular area that they were expert in or that they had a lot of interest in. Our internships are quarterly right now, 15 hours a week, in line with the university, and they're focused on getting recent college grads their foot in the door for their first interviews. So we focus on project management, storytelling with data, and design best practices and reuse. And tonight, for jumpstarting, to just give a little bit of background about Tableau Public, there is some new stuff since Tableau 2021 with the web, the web editor. So you now have the option to author either here with the web editor, or you can still use Tableau Public Desktop where you download the software. There is some differences between them, especially when it comes to dealing with data. And then also talking about Tableau search and how we wish it would get better, but couple of alternatives to searching Tableau search or Tableau Public directly is to use Google Advanced Search and search in the Tableau Public domain, or to use the Tableau Public search APIs. So in terms of the difference, if you're not, so when you look at public.tableau.com on the web, and you're dealing with the data menu, so you bring up a viz and you're editing it, or you copied one, you'll notice that the data menus are different. This is what the data menu looks if you download the workbook to Tableau Public to your desktop, and you open it with Tableau Public Desktop, which is software you can download from Tableau Public. You get a lot more of the traditional Tableau Desktop menu set, where when you're using Tableau Public Web Editor, you don't. So for example, if you wanted to take a data sheet, so if you copied a data viz and you wanted to get the data source out of that and save it to your desktop so you could edit it and then reload it as another data source back up, you'd need to use Tableau Public Desktop, because you can see you have this access to view the data, or to export the data to CSV or to a spreadsheet, and then you can edit it. And then you could use Tableau Public Web Editor at that point, and you could, once you pushed it back up and you had the new data source up, then you can use it. But that's the one place that we found where Tableau Public Web Editor it falls a little bit short. On the other hand, all you have to do to copy a viz into your own profile on Tableau Public is to go to it now and click the little copy. Boom! It's in your profile. One caveat is, by default, it's hidden in your profile. So if you don't realize that, you go to your profile and check to see if it's there. You don't see it because you have to go look at your hidden hidden vises, and then you'll see it. So a little gotcha. So in terms of, just a reminder, when you're searching in Tableau Public, you're not doing a true Boolean and. So it's very challenging. You know, if you go and you search for an author and you put in your name, you're going to get all the people, like myself, I'm going to get all the people named John and all the people named Bremer, and that's what's going to show up. So there is no Boolean and it's the same thing. Like I want to search for amputation and diabetes. Likely Tableau, if I put both those keywords in, Tableau will bring me back a bunch of vises that do have both, but it won't bring me back all the ones that have both. And in the case of like amputation, diabetes, orthotics, it's going to be way down in the list to get one that has all three. It's going to give me some that have just amputation, some that have diabetes. So to get around that, one thing you can do is you can use an advanced search in Google. So you can just go to Chrome or your favorite browser, go to google.com, type in amputation, diabetes, orthotics as your search terms, and then type in this site public.tableau.com. So that'll search on Tableau Public, and then you'll get results back that are true Boolean anded. So all three of those terms are going to appear in the vises that you get hits on. So that's another way that you can use Google to search in Tableau Public and take advantage of all of Google's advanced search things. And remember, Google's advanced search, you go over to the little wheel on the right, and you can click and get into the advanced search page, and you have all kinds of options, including what domain you want to search. But I want all the sites that have all these words but don't have these words. You can double quote phrases, and so you can really narrow down to a particular viz, because there are millions of vises, and you may not like what Tableau puts to the top. So to summarize, so Google Advanced Search will return visualizations that have like a Boolean and Tableau Public returns vises with any of the keywords. So it's more like a Boolean or than an and. And then also another area that we can talk about later if we have time is the whole idea of pulling the data out of Tableau Public into another database or another spreadsheet. And if you've seen Will Sutton's Viz of the Day viz, then that's an example of where he pulled out all of the data, the metadata associated with all of the vises of the days going back to 2010, and use that as an independent data source. And then in that case, you could even, create the Boolean search with a wildcard field in Tableau. And there's nice tutorial examples for how to do that. And and you could do that. So if there was a particular subject area that had thousands of vises and you wanted to analyze those, you could use an API call to pull all that data out of Tableau Public for, say, solar power, and pull those thousands of vises out into a JSON file, which then you could use as the source in a data viz, and you could build your own Boolean search inside of Tableau Public of a viz. So now we're going to switch gears and go ahead, and Ben's going to start us off, and he's going to give a presentation on his work researching a topic in Tableau Public and trying to jumpstart a viz with it, and tell us how it went for him. So Ben, if you want to go ahead and share.
Yeah, I'll share my screen. All right, turn to slideshow. So first, an introduction. I am Ben Ellis. I'm an intern at Lifted Viz. And I recently graduated from the University of Colorado in August with a bachelor's in business strategy and a minor in computer science. And the reason I'm really interested in data analytics is because I think it's really the best role for me to kind of combine both like my technical skills working in a language like SQL or Python, or a software like Tableau, of course, and applying what I do with those technical skills into actual business insights with my bachelor's in business strategy. So then a little bit more about me and like what I decided to research was I've kind of always struggled with like diets and weight loss. I've done keto, I've done like vegetarian diets. Right now I'm doing intermittent fasting, which I think John and I were talking about it. We both do this one and it's actually, I find it to be the most effective. But what I decided to actually look at was what factors determine obesity rates specifically across the US. So here is the visualization I was using. And the green county, these are broken down by counties, and the green ones are low obesity, and then red ones are high obesity. And then here are just some regressions on different factors I found that had a strong positive correlation with obesity. And then, so going through the LV5D like framework, the first one is the first D is define. So it's kind of talking about like what is why is the data meaningful? So you have to define your audience. And so I decided to put myself in the place of being a market analyst, and for a like a high-end health food brand, think like a keto bar or something like that, that costs a little bit more, but is healthier, of course, and something with higher carbs. And then the business questions would be what trends cause lower levels of obesity, of course, across the US, and does a lower level of obesity necessarily mean this is a good location for the keto bar that we're talking about? So one thing I thought about was how in a county might have a lower level of obesity because the population is a bit more active, but they might not be as good with their diet. So I was kind of like looking at the trade-off there and thinking like a good location would be a place that's low levels of obesity, specifically because people are conscious about their diets. And then so the intended use would be company finding new locations to offer product, and the action supported would be offer products in new locations, of course. And then for the design part of the framework, I wanted to look at what metrics should be seen first. So specifically, I thought obesity rates was the most important metric. So it should be kind of at the top of the viz, and how can we highlight specific data? So the original viz that I was working with had gray being low obesity, or no, it had red being low obesity and gray being high obesity. And I thought that wasn't really a good way to highlight it. So I decided to change it to being green and red because those colors kind of pop and bring you to counties that are on each end a little bit easier. And then what further details need to be available? Of course, I added tool tips about what things would be relevant for a health food company. So like the diets of the people in the population and how much they exercise. And then the other one I did was like how much the people spend on fast food restaurants, which once again kind of ties into the diet. And then the conclusion I came with for where the company should offer the product was Hunterdon, County, New Jersey. And I wanted to compare it to Denver County in Colorado, because I think Denver is a place people think of as like really healthy, and they are really healthy over in Denver. But when you actually look at the statistics for why they're healthy, you see here for eating few fruits and vegetables, actually 57% are reported to eat few fruits and vegetables. Whereas in New Jersey, it's only 2.5 in Hunterdon County, New Jersey. And then when it comes to exercise, more people are exercising in Denver as opposed to the place in New Jersey, which might show that the lower levels of obesity could be better attributed to an active lifestyle than necessarily their diet in Denver. But in New Jersey, it's more about their diet, and they're more conscious about that. And this can be further seen in the fast food expenditures per capita, being 371 in Hunterdon and 529 in New Jersey or in Denver. And then going over how like doing research in Tableau was for me. So the pros, I thought you had easy access to data that you were researching. So if I found a viz that I thought was interesting, not only do I have that viz itself, but I can download the data and actually like use it. And then you have more control over the data. So you can create like a regression using it, or whatever you need to do. Or the viz that I was using had different statistics highlighted, like something about smokers and how that affected obesity, but I didn't think that was really relevant for what I was looking at. And then you can also learn things that you didn't intend to learn, because you're kind of going through a lot of business that come up, at least on the Tableau public search. And I think it's always good just to like see something, and maybe if it wasn't what you were initially intending to learn, it's like, oh, that's a cool thing to know. Since you don't immediately kind of just have exactly what you were looking for. But the con, on the other hand, is because of that, it takes a little bit longer, I think, to access data, as opposed to like a Google search. If you looked up a statistic, you would find it pretty much immediately. And then there are definitely some like bad vizzes to look through, or like things that don't really directly relate to what you're looking for. Of course, on Tableau Public, like somebody can make their very first viz just kind of messing around and post it, and it will show up on Tableau Public. And then finally, I thought like a con was maybe it was just me, but I had some issues with publishing on Tableau Public. Like, for example, I would publish something and then I would see it didn't exactly publish as I last had it. Like something would happen with like the regressions I had or something like that. And then also sometimes I would try to publish, I would try to copy something and then it just wouldn't be able to copy over. So yeah, those are the pros and cons of using Tableau. And thank you for listening.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a really fascinating point, I think, with the having to sort through a lot of bad data. I mean, yeah, you get exposed to all these ideas. And of course, that's one of the advantages to starting with like Will Sutton's Viz of the Day. But I've seen some other presentations where they wish that, they just wish that Tableau Public Search was more powerful, and you could specify things in terms of like the sort order of the results, so that you could see things like, I want a true Boolean search, and I want it sorted by the most likes or the most views, so that I can get, I have some idea of the quality.
Yeah, I was looking for like sorting. Is there anything I could sort for like
There's
last
not.
updated or something like that?
No, in
So I
fact,
can have the most like recent data.
So in order to do that, then you'd have to do something like pull the data out in a JSON file, get it into something else, a Tableau Viz or a database or something, where you could do things like sort order or do Boolean, selections to narrow it down to what you want. But yeah, well, thanks. Great job.
You.
David, do you have any questions or observations?
No, thank you for that presentation, Ben. That was great. Yeah, I really, very interesting stuff. I like what you did with the colors on the map and how you did it out by county. That was very telling. So good job there.
Thank you.
I know that a lot of times when people use green and red, which is really good, nice colors, but if they are in a government website or something, they'll offer like a toggle button, to swap to something that has more saturation in a different color palette, so that colorblind people can see it, because green and red is one of the things. But that's an easy alternative to offer. And you don't want to throw out green and red for 99% of the people, if there's if there's an alternative for other people. Cool. All right. Well, let's see. I'm going to share my screen again, and I believe I'm sharing sound as well. So I will go and let's see. I have a presentation from Des. So we have two East Coast people who couldn't.
Hi, my name is Desiree. A little introduction about myself is that I have an undergraduate degree in psychology
Can you guys hear
and a
this?
master's degree in prosthetics and orthotics.
Yeah, we can hear
I've worked in the healthcare industry for about 5 years. In the last year, I have migrated into the field of data analytics by pursuing further education. With my specialty in healthcare data, My question is, how does the change in Medicare guidelines from November 2020 impact the preventative care of people with diabetes in the United States? So I'll do a little bit of a background. So this just goes over what diabetes is. The main issue that I see as someone who's worked in orthotics and prosthetics is that patients with diabetes will usually have ulcers and wounds. And the reason for that is a lack of protective sensation. And the issue with that is then that can lead to amputations of the toes or feet or lower extremities. I felt like this was an important question to ask because so many people are impacted. 1 in every 10 people in the United States have diabetes. And then also I thought this was important to ask because of the high amount of medical costs for patients with diabetes and insurance companies. So preventative care, what the orthotic industry would supply to these patients is 3 pairs of custom inserts, a pair of orthopedic shoes. Custom inserts are made to support the arches of the foot and reduce on any one area. Orthopedic shoes allow proper fit of the custom insert into the shoe. So what are the changes in 2020? There's restrictions to who the patient can see, so it must be an A or a DO. So usually that's the first roadblock, is it's difficult to get in to see your MD. And usually there's a nurse practitioner or physician's assistant, but those are not accepted under Med guidelines. Also, the doctor must document all of the following criteria. There must be documentation of either amputation, foot ulcer, callus, foot deformity, poor circulation. There also needs to be a separate certifying statement that the doctor must sign. And then also there's a line where there must be an in-person visit to that doctor within the last 6 months prior to the delivery of the shoes. So as you can imagine, this can be kind of overwhelming for the front staff to make sure we have all of this documentation. The outcome of this, due to the difficult guidelines for Medicare, orthotic and prosthetic clinics have reduced the supply of custom foot orthotics and diabetic shoes. Companies have either stopped participating with the Medicare guidelines, therefore not providing this service, or patients pay out of pocket, which can be between $400 to $1,000. The return on investment is low on these products to begin with. They also tend to be the most time consuming with clinicians. So it doesn't make sense from a biz standpoint to keep providing these items. My business question is, how does the increasingly difficult guidelines for Medicare impact the preventative care for beneficiaries with diabetes? My hypothesis was that there can be an increase of lower limb amputations due to reduced care and protection of the lower extremities. I thought that this was important because of the increased cost with surgeries and post-op care than the cost of preventative care. So I started out my research online. I was able to find the CDC website where I obtained this data. This just goes over the amount of people who've been diagnosed with diabetes annually. Then I was able to go on Tableau Public and pull up this graph. So I thought this would be helpful. As you can see on the right here, it has a bunch of different etymologies. So I was able to see just the dysvascular disease with comorbidity of diabetes. So that would be the number I would be interested in. So I was able to download this data as well. And then I was able to combine the 2 graphs and come up with my Tableau dashboard rough draft. So it would look something like this. The information on the bottom was from the Tableau Public graph that I obtained, and then the graph on top is from my CDC website. So I will need some additional data if I'm going to make this visualization support my hypothesis. So I think it would be important to note the number of orthotic and prosthetic clinics that have stopped or reduced diabetic care over the last 3 years. This is so I can show the correlation between amputation rates going up and then the clinics who provide orthotic care reducing over time. I also would need the amputation rate percent of total diabetic population. The 2 graphs that I showed on the previous slide, that they are positively correlated, that's something that we would expect. So when the diabetic population increases, we would also expect the amputation rate to increase. What I would be more curious about is what the actual percentage of the amputation rate, if that goes up versus stays the same, expect the same just because the diabetic population is increasing. And here are my references. So overall, I would need more data to support my hypothesis and be able to appropriately show if there's an impact between O&P clinics reducing sales in custom foot orthotics and diabetic shoes and the increase in amputation rate. Thanks.
Yeah, so I can comment for Des here on the struggle with using the Tableau public search. Was she tried to put in amputation and diabetes and orthotics, and none of the vises that came up near the top had to do with all three of those. So she had to go out and use Google to get back. There was a lot about amputation and diabetes, but there wasn't a lot about the impact of orthotics. And I learned orthotics just doesn't mean it means any kind of brace basically on your body. But it's super important, and I thought it was a really compelling story that they're trying to cut costs by being more stringent in in what they'll pay for and justifying this foot protection for these diabetic people's feet who have no feeling in their feet and no circulation in the feet. But in the end, her hypothesis is, it's ending up costing Medicare more in the end, and that's what she hopes to be able to prove out with further data, because more people are getting their limbs chopped off, which is way more expensive than giving them, a way to protect their feet in the first place. So really super interesting. And this one moved me a little bit. I was like, oh man, it's like I do not want to get my foot cut off. So, you have any thoughts, Ben, on this?
Not really. I do think it's super cool though for Desiree that she's like really knowledgeable in like this orthopedics and prosthetics kind of stuff, and that she's like taking that knowledge and like specifically now wants to like also do data analytics in that thing. And this like shows how she like just how much she knows in that field.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I mean, I do think that everybody that gets into data analytics and visualization ends up working in business verticals that they're not familiar with, and they have to acquire, the expertise in learning about marketing channels or social media or, web analytics or web, something like that. But it definitely, when you're trying to get a job and you can combine, a deep understanding of a particular vertical, particular niche, especially something in healthcare where there's a lot of money, and you can show that you have the analysis chops. I think that really makes you stand out. David, what was your journey? You said you learned in-house. Were you always doing analytics on topics that you were expert in, or did you get asked to work with data that was really foreign?
So really my journey started with data in call centers, working with Dish Network. And I was working for specifically a group that they would specialize in helping our local mom and shop business partners across the nation. And so we would do a lot of analytics on just our performance, the performance of our, the people that were on the call, taking the call and stuff. So that's where our analytics and all that kind of started off. I was doing it all in Excel and all that, and then I was introduced to Tableau, which is where it really took off.
Mm-hmm. Do you still leverage your Excel skills?
A little bit. I tend to dabble more so in SQL. I love SQL a lot more. I now in this newer role, I've been in this role almost a year at Comcast. I'm using a lot more Excel now than I was in my previous role, so I'm having to kind of relearn stuff.
And when you use SQL, are you typically working on big cloud databases or?
So we use Teradata.
Okay.
Specifically Teradata, and yeah, I mean, usually one of the projects, my projects typically range with like the row count will be anywhere from like, I don't know, 6 to 10 million rows.
Yeah.
So they're larger data sets than I'm used to working with, but it's all good fun.
So if you write if you do some kind of a join or a subselect that's not very efficient, in a hurry.
Yeah, absolutely. You get emails right away.
Like, oh,
yes.
especially like if you can't even stop it. You're just like, you gotta,
Yeah, then it becomes a problem.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we have something. Let's see what we got from Miguel. Got one more here.
Hello, everyone. First off, I want to start by saying I am sorry I wasn't able to attend, but I hope everyone is having a wonderful time. This will be my presentation for today. My name is Miguel Perez. I have a direct quote from Ed Parker, which has resonated with me a lot. It says, "The intelligent man is one who has successfully fulfilled many accomplishments and is yet willing to learn more." This resonates with me because as someone who has a lot of goals, as which I know many of us have goals, being able to have the willingness to learn a lot more than those goals is what can drive a lot of people. And I feel as though that drives me. I would be an excellent data analyst in the automotive industry because I have a thorough understanding of how the automotive business is run. In every organization, the analyst must have a commercial understanding of the client. The analyst must also recognize and differentiate the true impact of their analysis and how it can affect an organization's decisions commercially. I feel as though I would be a great fit. So here I have the LV5D define and design steps, which were informed by the 3 visuals I was able to use for my research and my topic on automotive shops from Tableau Public. And the process goes by define, design, data prep, develop, and deliver. So here I have my primary audience, which is myself, the shop owner, and the secondary audience would be someone like a shop employee or a visitor of the tool, which can be through the shop's business website. Some of my business questions were, who are the target customers? What vehicle has the most problems per specific category? What age does a car need more maintenance? The top 5 most requested repair categories. So this would enable users to acquire knowledge on future revenue trends for the shop, and they would be able to get visibility into growth. Whether it was positive or a negative impact, the story will tell how the shop can optimize business based on results and also make data-informed decisions. Metrics and dimensions would be like revenue, customers repair, categories, and vehicle make. Any design requirements would be, well, like the people viewing the dashboard, whether they're viewing on a phone or computer, or if there were any specific desired branding or design preferences from the shop. Then I just have a link to the dashboard that I use as a great starting point. So based off my starting point, I was able to modify and create a improved dashboard to where I would see the answer to my business questions a lot more clearly. I have how do repair, car make, and car age affect this shop's revenue. I'm going to have 3 minor questions listed. Well, I have 3 minor questions listed. As we can see here, the age cars have most demanded repair would be 12 to 20 years old, which are more likely to need maintenance for repair, which in turn can lead to higher potential in revenue. And top repair categories were tires, oil, alignment, emissions, and so on. The vehicle make with the most transactions on repair, well, the top three were Ford, Chevrolet, and Dodge. And I also provided a link for the dashboard. I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. I tried to make it short, sweet, and simple. Thank you so much.
Oh, that was great. um, yeah, so I think that's a great example of, you know, he used the project management framework to really try to frame his story that he wanted to tell. And then, you know, I think he did a great job of going out and finding some data visualizations that supported his you know, his call to action and what he was trying to present. And you know, one of the things that's super interesting for me about that is, you know, whenever you do have your initial things, even when you work with real customers and they're answering those interview questions about the requirements, once they see, you know, the first versions of stuff, a lot of times it triggers more ideas, or they figure out that's not what they actually wanted. So David, do you run into do you run into issues much with upper managers and the audience of your reporting not trusting the data?
I can't say that I've run into that now, and I will say that was a lesson that was hard learned in previous roles. I have learned to really kind of make sure that I'm buttoned up, if you will, before publishing anything, because I really have learned, you know, through, like I said, through tough lessons, that once people get their hands on a dashboard and they do realize that the data might not be exactly correct, the hardest part is getting them to trust that dashboard again.
Yeah.
So like I said, in my experience, I've buttoned up quite a bit, so I don't see that so much anymore.
And have you had the experience where the reporting you've created has acted as like a quality control tool back on the data, like, you know, missing data or bad data?
So I guess yes and no to a certain extent. I've had my dashboard builds sort of expose those types of things, where then I think we at that point would pivot to leveraging Python. And the way that we would do that, right, is we would do like data-driven alerts. So we would essentially write a Python script that would essentially contain a query that would check a table for whatever anomaly, right, occurred.
Yeah.
And it would just run daily in the background on a server, Alteryx or whatever it may be, right? And essentially run a check, and you would just set logic to say, if X occurs, then I need you to send an email to the following people, letting them know that there's issues or that there's things going on, right, that are array.
Yeah. Do you put any kind of explicit dates or markings on your dashboards or your reports that speak to the freshness of the data that's being reported on?
Yeah, actually, so on most of my, well, I should say on all my dashboards, I include at the very least a data through. And what I do with including that data through is I just do a level of detail. I do a fixed calculation to just give me the max date of whatever date value, right, date column that's being updated. If it's a data source that's published to server, you can then also get the last refresh date and utilize that as well. So you could let your user know, right, here's the max date that we have in the data, as well as here's the last date that the extract refresh ran successfully.
Right. And do you indicate whether it's an extract or a live connection?
That I don't, and I think it's mainly because I don't know, I can't remember the last time I published something on a live connection.
Right.
And it's just because of, performance. Usually when you're
Yes.
dealing with that amount of data, it's nearly impossible to load.
Sure. Yeah. Like you said, millions. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys jumping on. I'm sorry we didn't get more people. Hopefully next time we will, but this was a great opportunity for our interns to get to practice their presentation skills, and we appreciate you, David, being our audience.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
yeah.
Thank you guys. And shout out to Ben from CU. I love it. Colorado.
All right.
represent.
Yeah, see you.
Yeah, and it looks like Colorado's a pretty healthy place.
Yeah.
Tell
It's
your
the
health
healthiest state
Very active.
for sure.
All right. Awesome. Okay, well, we'll be doing this next month too, so maybe we'll catch you again, David.
All righty. Have a wonderful night. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.